All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Patrick Hankinson. I'm a partner at Concrete Ventures. We're a $17 million Atlantic Canadian pre-seed fund focused on finding great ideas and founders looking to build massively scalable businesses here in Atlantic Canada. Today, I'm excited to have Adam O'Donnell from Zendesk to give a talk on customer experience trends and what makes high growth companies stand out versus lower growth companies. Feel free to ask any questions with the Q&A feature during the webinar, and if Adam has time, he'll try to answer them. And with that, I will hand it over to Adam.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Can everyone hear my screen, see my screen, and hear me?
Yeah, it looks like it's coming in fine.
Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. So guys, thank you so much for your time. And girls, we're going to be today. I just want to just make sure that we're focused on what we're ultimately trying to build. We're trying to build companies that can become unicorns or on track to that. And everything that I'm going to be sharing today is around that context. And there's a new trend that we're phrasing here at Zendesk called customer experience led growth. We've all heard of product led growth, and it sounds super sexy, but I believe this is the next wave. And companies like Amazon have already proven it out. So, but today, like the first thing I just want to say is like, this is what I want you to take away from this is customer experience tactics, tools, and strategies that are used by the fastest growing companies. And I know that everyone is zoomed out, including myself, just hearing like, oh, another Zoom event, like, let's do it. It's not something I'm get excited about. So I want to make sure this is worth your time. And the reason that you should listen to us is really simple. So we just Zendesk, just 2 seconds, we're a customer experience platform or customer support. We've been around since 2007. We've worked with some of the best companies in the world that they didn't just come to us at the enterprise level. They came to us in the first couple of years. So long and short, the reason you should listen to us and stay awake for this Zoom event is because we've seen inside more CX departments than anyone else in the world. So that's the data that I'm going to be showcasing today. And I'll make sure to make it really tactical. And it's not just going to be, this is not a Zendesk pitch, although a lot of the data does indicate things that we focus on. So but that's just why we're focusing on them, because it helps everyone with customer experience. So we'll start out by just kind of framing the picture here. And I think for me, as I used to be I've founded 2 SaaS companies. One was a failure and one had a soft landing and no crazy exit, but it was enough for me to move out here to San Francisco and learn a lot from there, and joined a venture capital fund where I got to review about 2,000 different companies. And just that firm had invested in Airbnb and Amplitude and some other unicorns. So just was able to learn a lot from that. But one of the things that I saw is that traditionally customer experience is just hard to justify investing in. I'm just going to say it again. It's hard to justify investing in this, and because it's looked at as a cost center and not a growth lever. So that is kind of the theme, the high level world that we've been living in a customer experience world. But the question is not only like, can we force it to be a growth lever, but is it actually, or can it actually help us grow in a much faster way? So that's what I'm going to be talking about moving forward. So if we take even more of a step back, like why now? Why is this the right time out of all the history of the internet to be focusing on just customer experience and using that potentially as a growth lever? So to answer that, I think I got to scare you for a second, and hopefully this won't be too much of a surprise for everyone, but I just want to, it's just super important, and it kind of answers the question on why customer experience is so important. So it's a buyer's world out there, and we all, just to get like a quick history of the internet here, we have to understand where we are, we have to understand where we've been. And early 90s, right? Mid 2000s to 2000s, it was just like people were building as many possible things as they could. And it wasn't, would people buy it? It was, can we build it? And all the while, there's these new channels that are popping up in the mid 2000s, but the cost of building continues to go down exponentially. So we can get products to market really fast. But there's just an incredible demand for this, and there's still not a huge amount of competition. But what happens pretty much from 2005 to 2015, all these new channels are popping up. So while it's still easy to create product, more and more channels are popping up. So it's easy to market it. So the cost of going to market was super low. And even though we had competition, we were able to justify just focusing only on acquisition and just pay whatever it took and just grow at all costs through acquisition. And we know it'll work out in the end. But the problem in 2015, Snapchat was one of the last new channels that was created. Obviously, TikTok came up recently, but the frequency of new distribution channels has decreased significantly, and they're not popping up right and left. So that's why we see the cost of advertising and acquiring a customer has increased significantly. So I'll show you some data on that in a second. So that's the context. And like I said, the competition has always been going up over this time, but now that the channels are getting limited and ratcheting down, there's not as many options. The costs are going up. When you start, the average person starting a company now has 4 to 5 times more competitors than they did 10 years ago. And the cost of customer acquisition has gone up 70% over the past 7 years. This data is backed up by a company called Profitwell, which they have, they're based in Boston. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They're incredible on their data source. They have more access to billing and customer subscription data than anyone else in the world. And so they're able to just accurately report on this. And this is what they found. So it's not just in B2B, but also in D2C. So let that one sit for a second. In addition to that, we have 60 to 80% lower product value. So this one hurt me as a founder who cared previously so much about the next new feature. And I was just so proud of the features that we had built, but customers now are valuing those same features that I was so excited about 5 years ago. They're valuing it at 60 to 80% less. Here's more data by Profitwell confirming the same thing. So core features and integrations are now valued at 65% less overall since 2015. So that means that feature that you're working on, that you're so excited about, you're not going to be able to get as much money for it as you had hoped, and it's going to continue to decrease. So the final bearer of bad news here is customers are hard to please, and they're harder to please now than ever. NPS data or NPS numbers overall have also decreased. In 2015, as you can see, they're at 35, and now today they're below 10. So 34-point decrease. So this, once again, just setting the stage overall that it's more expensive to acquire a customer now than ever. They value the things that we're doing at a lower monetary amount, and they're harder to please now than ever. This is just like this is the nature of any economic growth. It makes sense. It's how all markets are ultimately moving, but it's just the reality of where we are right now. So I asked this question, are you excited yet? Because I know it was tough for me to kind of have this reality, but when I understood the game that we're playing, we're able to start focusing in the right way, and we're not going to keep playing the old game. We can just adapt quickly. So in light of this, any business, right? The most basic things of a business is acquire a customer and retain a customer. So acquire a customer and retain a customer. And what we looked at, and this is also inspired by Profitwell. This was data that Profitwell did as well. So if you increase the improvement on your acquisition by 1%, what's the impact on the revenue of your company? Or if you increase efficiency of your retention, or if you decrease retention by 1%, what's the impact on your revenue? So those are always just the two areas that we can focus on as founders. So it used to be that focusing on acquisition would make a huge difference on net revenue, and retention wasn't as high. But now, according to the data, if you focus on retention, it can impact your revenue by nearly 4 times more than that same 1% increase on the acquisition side. So this is not a suggestion to stop focusing on acquisition at all. That would be so make sure that that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that investing in customer experience has a significant impact on actual revenue. And when we understand that, when we get excited about that, we can start playing the right game, and things can move in a good direction. And I think just a quick story for me is, we've all probably had this, but I was buying something for my dad for Father's Day about a month ago. And I went to get this. I wanted this specific shirt. So I go and search Google for it, and I find it. It was on a company I'd never heard of that was selling it. The price seemed okay. And I went all the way to the shopping cart purchase. But right at the end, I was kind of like, like I started having anxiety. And I was like, man, what if it doesn't get delivered on time? What if their shipping process takes forever? First of all, are they going to charge me for shipping? All these things. What if it's not the right shirt? What if they don't send it to his right house? What if they put the receipt in the box and it's a gift, and then my dad sees how much I bought? All these stupid anxieties, but they were impactful enough for me to, in that moment, go to Amazon.com, right? And I searched. I was like, wait, what if Amazon has the same shirt? Sure enough, they had the exact same shirt. So long and short, I instantly bought it on there. And this is not a surprise to us, but that small example, if we can just remember that as we're building our companies, the end-to-end customer experience 100% matters. And it's not just like imperative for the customers that you have, but it's imperative for growth. It increases acquisition, because I would not have gone and used and bought them if I hadn't had that same customer experience. So we know this, but it's just something to remember. And these numbers might help you as you talk to your C-suite, as you talk to founders, if you are one, or if you're not, just reminding them of, hey, like, let's take some of that money from acquisition and let's prioritize it in customer experience. And even though we might not see the gain immediately, the delayed reaction is going to be way more impactful to our business than ever. And Amazon not making a profit for years and years and years was an example of just delayed gratification that they had, because they were focusing on the right things, not just focusing on cheap growth. And it led to them being one of the most impactful companies in the world. So the question that we need to support by the data, of course, like I just said, is, does focusing on customer experience actually lead to growth? And like I just said, the answer is, of course, yes. But I want to back it up with data that we found. And like I said, we have some of the best data on this in the world. So Zendesk has 160,000 customers. And like I said at the beginning, here are some of the interesting startups that have built on Zendesk starting in the early days, not just at the enterprise level. So these are the kind of companies that I'm going to be showing data. It's all anonymized, but what we basically did is we looked at 4,622 startups, customers that we've had, and we looked back from January 2014. And we wanted to see how they used our system and how they were managing their customer experience differently than slower growing companies. So we first had to take the data that we had in terms of how they were using, what they were actually doing, and compare that to so we had to look at how fast the fast growing companies and the slow growing companies. And to get that data, that was all public information. We categorized high growth based on VC firms that invested in them, based on the rate of, based on the frequency that were able to raise money, based on like I said, the type of VCs that they were able to raise, and based on the amount of money that they're able to raise. So things like that to understand, okay, this is a high growth company. And of course, if they went public, that kind of stuff. And then stagnant companies, we looked at them, and obviously they had much less numbers in all those areas. So we were able to bucket it into like 2 groups in this 4,600 that we analyzed. And at the end of this, I'll also show you, we looked at the unicorns that had been built on us, like some of the ones I just showed, and we only looked at the unicorns and wanted to see what their data said just as well. So I'll show that at the end here as well. So let's first see let's just see what the high growth companies did versus the stagnant. So if you will, we will get under the hood here. Let's see if this GIF will restart. let's get under the hood here and look at some of the data. So I'm going to be sharing the results as well as some potential strategies and tactics and tools, not all of which have to be using Zendesk. So I want to make sure that, not everyone is ready right away. It's not about us or someone else. It's just about the data and doing what's right for your company. Final thing before we show you the data is just 1% matters. And I know that this was interesting because the numbers are definitely different. But when you look at the difference between being in the top 1% or even in the top 98%, it's exponentially different in terms of fundraising amount, exit potential, acquisition amount. And just a data point for me was when I was at Mighty Capital, that Silicon Valley based venture capital fund invested in Airbnb, Amplitude, and some other unicorns. When I looked at the percentage of companies that we invested in, so we invested in only the 1%. We invested in less than 1% of companies that we saw. And I was like, this is crazy. There's so many great companies. And as a new associate, the difference between someone who's in the top 2% versus the top 1%, so that 1% difference was the difference between getting funding or their round being 3 times as much or not. So my point is when it comes to building unicorns, when it comes to building the best companies in the world in a global market, that 1% better, which doesn't seem that much different, makes all the difference. So with that said, the first thing that we noticed of the fastest growing companies, that the faster growing companies were doing, that the slower growing companies were not doing it as soon, was getting out of your email and using a tool. And so, like I said, it doesn't have to be Zendesk. I'm just saying, like, they learn that we can't just manage our customer experience in our email. We have to organize and put some process around that. And so high growth companies were 33% more likely to add support in the first year of founding. So they're taking this seriously and they're moving along fast with it. And as a founder, I was just like, I did not prioritize this like I should. And I know that I probably took the brunt of that later on, but it's just so easy to say, let's just focus on acquisition. But if we're not wowing them with the experience, you're going to get that. You might not see it for a month or two, but down the road, it's going to hinder your growth. And we're not sprinting, we're running a marathon. So it's important to just put a process in place and get out of that inbox as fast as you can, most likely in the first year. And there's a lot of great tools you can use. Obviously, Zendesk is one of them. So here's the check that we ask ourselves. This is a funny conversation. We call it the name test. So can you still name all of your current customers? And this is a joking text conversation between two founders. Can you name all our customers? One founder to another, and the founder in charge of the customers is like, yeah, I mixed panel and we got a couple more. But what's the point, right? We need a support tool. If you can't remember the names of your customers, all of them quickly, then it's most likely time to be considering some kind of process so that it doesn't hit you in the face and blow up. So that's the first just simple tactic, is just get out of the inbox and get some kind of process in place, get some tool in place. So the second thing that we notice with the fast growing companies versus the slow growing companies is omnichannel. So this word just is like a fluff word, if you ask me, but it basically means that they met their customers where they were. They weren't just like, hey, go to our support line. They said they went to where they, like, here, go to support at Gmail or at Zendesk.com. They met them on Instagram. They met them on WhatsApp. They were there for text messages. Wherever their customer wanted to communicate with them, they went right there and started helping them there. So fast growing companies were 33% more likely to add omni-channel by year 2. You can see the difference here. So remember, just as I said earlier, it's unfortunate, but customers are harder to please now than ever, with that NPS going down by 34 points. So we just we got to be where they are. And like I said, as a founder, I'm like, come on, this is crazy. Like, can't we just have it? They'll just send us an email. Like, y'all are crazy. We don't need to go over and above here. We're still helping them, right? But it does make a difference. And one of the examples of meeting them there is this chatbot on Instagram, which of course, yes, Zendesk can do this for you and make it really easy. But this is an example where they can DM you on Instagram if you have, more of a consumer audience. Potentially, you can give them potential suggestions of how you can, what their problem is or what their question is, and then you can give them those auto responses that are all powered by a bot just directly there, and they can get their questions answered much faster, and they're able to stay in the channel that they want. Another thing is, this is a funny one. So many people, especially outside the US and even in the US, WhatsApp is incredibly powerful and important. There's a couple of companies that have built their customer experiences just using WhatsApp that we've been working with. I found that as an interesting trend, especially in Latin America and like I said, outside the US. But a lot of times if you're leading your customer support, you don't want to have all these conversations in all these different areas, and you don't want your agents or team to be on their phone or even on a WhatsApp app handling things. You want it to all be in one spot. So what you usually do is this: hey, please contact support at slowgrowthco.com. And you usually get a response like this. So instead, let John talk where John wants to talk and let it go to them. And this is, like I said, what the faster growing companies were doing they were adding this kind of support and this kind of customer experience 33% sooner. And you're more likely to do it in year 2 than the stagnant companies. Okay. The third one is live chat and staff it. So this long and short, we know what this is, but just it's having the live chat icon on your website. It's putting it it's putting it in maybe a bot. It's putting it in potentially Instagram, WhatsApp, all that stuff. But you cannot treat this like a normal support channel. You actually do need to staff it. So and this usually scares away a lot of founders because they're like, man, if we have live chat, that means we've got to be quick on the responses. And now we're like kind of tied to responding quickly. And if you flip that on its head, knowing the world we're in, where acquisition is now harder than ever, you see this as, wait a second, this is not a pain. This is a freaking opportunity. Like, we have our customers who are paying us money, who potentially could be buying more of our stuff, and they probably know a lot of other people are like themselves. They're coming to us, engaging, and they need help. So we have an opportunity to help them and show off just our incredible experience and show off just our brand in general, as opposed to any marketing channel, right? You're begging them to talk to you, but now you have them coming to you, and yet we don't want to put the right amount of people behind it to interact with them. So we've seen companies where they actually take live chat, and we do have this interesting feature at Zendesk, which I think is cool. I'm mentioning it not as a sales thing. I'm sure there's other ways to do this, but if you're a support person and you see a customer complaint or issue that could lead to an upsell opportunity, you can flag that instantly on our system. And then you can direct that to a salesperson to help give them that better conversation to potentially lead to that upsell. And we found that those leads converted a 33% rate, or 30% rate, which is, incredible for any lead conversion. So let's not look at live chat as this annoying thing that we have to monitor, but let's look at it as this amazing opportunity to wow our customers that ultimately leads to growth. And this is what the best companies in the world are doing. So they were 20% more likely to add live chat by year 2. These are the companies that I said earlier. And of course, they staffed it. They didn't just cheaply add, hey, here's live chat, but really at the end of the live chat, it says it's a bot. And then it says, hey, just contact support if you really need some more questions and we'll get back to you. Like, they didn't do that. They made sure that they had the right amount of agents backing it to give that wow experience. This is some data here. So this is month 0 through month 24 of once they activated live chat. And if you look on the light is the percentage of agents that they had in Zendesk, what percentage of them were assigned to live chat. So both stagnant and fast growing companies had 16% of their agents assigned to monitor live chat. at month 0 when they started live chat. And then as you can see, the high growth companies were putting a much higher percentage of their existing agents to monitor that live chat so they could deliver those questions faster and ultimately lead to that amazing experience, which led to growth. So that is that. And the final point for just the overall 4,600 companies is invest in self-service and do it now. I was always juggling with this as a founder because I personally was that founder who was like, I don't want to talk to VCs right now. I don't want to talk to like advisors. I want to freaking live with my customers, and I want to be so obsessed that I'm on the phone with them. I'm on Zoom with them. I'm doing whatever it takes. And before we had 10 customers, that's what I was doing. And I didn't care about even a tool. I just wanted to live with them. And it was super messy, but it was super valuable. And one of the things I saw is I got a lot of consistent questions that they had. So I was always juggling between, should I just answer it custom right now, or should I start to create a help article that I could? And I always tried to make that time to create a help center article. And this is exactly what the high growth companies did as well. So they had 27% more self-service content in the first 24 months. And the data also shows, which I don't have here, I think it's like 60 to 80% of companies want to do it by self-service anyways. They don't even want to talk to you. And we know this, right? Like it makes an incredible amount of sense. We just want to get our problems solved faster. And we know if we'd have to talk to a human, it's going to take more time rather than just Google, boom, boom, answer, done. So let's help them help themselves faster, and let's be building that in. But like I said, as a founder, my challenge was, how do we budget our time to do this? And we at Zendesk have a quick 600-second rule that we have here. And it's each agent spending 10 minutes a day. Just block it off at the end of the day and ask one question. What's one pattern that I noticed today? And just that I could turn into a help article in some way. And, you can manage help articles on WordPress or whatever site you have. Of course, you can manage it if you have Zendesk as well. And we have this feature. I just want to share this because I'm like a nerd and I think it's really cool. They, as you're answering this, this is a customer conversation here. You can quickly click a one-click button and it will create a knowledge center article starting from the conversation that you've already had. So you don't have to re-enter all that information, and then boom, that article's already started. You finish it off, and then it's ready to go. So once again, that just make sure that we're building out for the long-term value of the company, which is creating those help center articles and if you do that, it's going to lead to higher growth. Okay. So finally, let's talk about the unicorns. It would be great to know if all this data was good, but then if the unicorns are doing something completely different, then maybe it was just some random thing that happened. Maybe our data is off in some way. So we wanted to look at what companies that built on Zendesk from, like I said, back in January 2014, how they used us differently. And of the ones that became unicorns, which is obviously really easy data to compare, what were they doing? And it was great to see that they were doing the same things, but faster. There's one point that's different that I'll show you. So basically, all the 4 points we talked about, but they just did it even sooner, even faster. And as a result, it helped them grow at a much faster rate. So they did omnichannel. So they were getting in front of their customers on all those different platforms, 14% faster than everyone else, than all the other fast growing companies. Self-service, they were doing that, but they were doing it 41% faster than everyone else. So they're getting self-service started and getting that up. And live chat, they were doing that 32% faster. So it is really clear to me. And if I ever go start a company again, it's like, let's just focus on the not sexy things like customer support. And those are the things that create the really sexy things, which is our long-term, incredibly fast growing business. And this point blew me away. When I was just looking at the data, no one on our team really highlighted this because I just you quickly go over it, but I was like, wait, what? They're on the phone, not text, not Zoom. Like they're solving problems with their customers on the phone 33% more, actually, excuse me, it's not faster. I need to put this should actually be more. So 33% more of their interactions were solved by phone than all of the other startups and that we examined. So to me, once again, I think this is a testament of just those founders who are just like a dog in a bone. They're just locked on their customers. They want to live with their customers and they want to learn every little thing. And I had this policy where for the first 10 customers, every single one, I wanted to personally onboard. And so I asked them if I could record their screen as they used our system and watch them use our system. And as a result, it led to a lot of growth. One of the companies I was able to, it was a blessing, not taking credit fully because it was an incredible team and all that, but we were able to grow to 1 million ARR in 6 months. And it was just by studying and understanding the customers at just a deeper level than even they understood. And I think this is a testament to that. Once again, doing the unscalable things initially to learn what you need to be scaling down the road and living with your customers. Okay, so just summarizing it up, get a tool, just get a process, get out of the inbox when you get around that 10 customers or you can't remember all their names anymore. And like I said, it doesn't have to be Zendesk. It definitely can be. It definitely can be us. I'll send you a link. We have in our startup program, we have a pretty cool a deal where anyone who comes through Concrete Ventures can get 6 months for free. So it's like and you get access to our customer support team and you get access to our community. The coolest thing for me is the community, because I was on a call about a month ago with the head of customer experience at Clubhouse. And so this was not like a webinar. This was just people from our community who wanted to just chat. It was like a happy hour. And our community is so tight. All these customer experience leaders are so tight that they're just like joining and they're basically just friends with each other. And they're all just kind of echo chambering, almost like learning from things that they're doing. And just hearing the head of customer experience at Clubhouse, who started using us before they blew up a year ago. So a year ago around this time, before they blew up, they were using Zendesk. They got that place, that they got things they got the infrastructure in place. And then they started to have that incredible growth, and just hearing those stories is just incredible. And being able to have access to people like that, where you're bumping shoulders with them in our community as part of our startup program, can be really powerful. So just would love that. And if you want to reach out to me, this is my email, and I'll add this link to, I'll add a link in Zoom really quick so you can see, so you can just apply for anyone coming through Concrete Ventures. So that's what I got right now. If I want to open it up for Q&A, I would love to hear any questions we got.
Perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Adam. And we'll make that link available to everybody as well through our email newsletter. So we'll send
Awesome.
that out after this. I don't see any questions there yet, but I do have a question. Like, when you're starting off, usually there's only a few people involved at your startup. Do you have any recommendations? Like, should the founders be doing customer experience like that early? Should they hire somebody that early? I've also heard of startups where they'll basically have their engineers rotate in and out of like support, just so they can get a sense of what customer problems are coming up, and then maybe they can come up with creative solutions faster. So I'm curious, like, what have you seen? What do you recommend? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Patrick, that's a great question. And because I think as a founder, we don't want to do it. It's easy to get prideful and think that we're above that. As you if you get a little bit of traction, it's easy to be like, oh no, I need to hire someone to do that. I need to focus on the really big things, the really sexy things like raising money or just the fun things. But I found that the ones who focus on the not fun things, which can be actually more fun if you ask me, like the nitty gritty of that relationship, it can be a lot better. I would definitely not say this is not something that we should offboard until you hit, like I said, to get to that 10 customer thing. I mean, from my experience and just like the best founders that I'm seeing, they're living with the customer. They're doing it unscalably for a while. And that's why if you like you should be able to remember your customers for, a long time. So, but once you get past that 10 to keep getting to product market fit, you have to do more scalable things, obviously. So I would just suggest to stay and live with your customers, you doing the support, like before before you're at that 10 customer mark. Yeah. So I appreciate that question.
Okay. And I'm curious, just maybe a follow up to that as well. Like, do you have any feedback on how this like changes from B2B to direct to consumer? Like, I think I recall reading somewhere at some point, like customer Trello, they had one person for 10 million users. Like, I don't even know how you could kind of scale it at that level, but I'm just kind of curious to hear your thoughts of the differences between B2B and direct to consumer.
That's a great point. And, I know I didn't break that out initially because it's obviously if you're running an e-commerce business, you might already have a couple hundred companies. A lot of the companies that I see, whether they're doing that consumer play or a B2B, they're still just like locked on their customer. So they're, even if they're just selling a $10 thing to them, they're still trying to talk to them as much as they can. Maybe obviously if you're D2C, maybe you wait a little bit longer in terms of the number of customers. Maybe it's, 50 to 100, but I think in your heart, you kind of know that answer in your head. Like, when it's like, if just as a founder, you just kind of have that discernment, I think, especially as you get more experience where it's like, this is getting a little unwieldy, and the benefit of knowing and living with them is now not going to be, is now lower than the potential pain of hurting their experience. So it's ultimately making that judgment between, can I still personally like manage all of this in the inbox, on the phone, my own text message, or is it starting to break? And when you get a feel, I think that like a lot of founders, I'm sure just like yourself, like you kind of know in your own heart based on your own business where that really is. But I think that 10 is a good line for like B2B, and maybe D2C, it's 50 to 100. Yeah. So I think that's a great question. Yeah, but
I think I might have lost your audio there. Are you still with us?
Yep. No, I'm here. Can you hear me? Testing.
Yeah, you're coming in fine. Okay, I just lost the audio there for the last second or two, but that's fine. Looks like we just have one question that just came in from Norm. Customer self-service is critical for scale. What do you see as the incremental value of video-based support, how-tos over traditional text and image in customer satisfaction?
That's a really good question, Norm. What do you see as incremental value of video-based support versus traditional text and image and customer satisfaction? I love this because, Norm, I just see you saying like, I want to do the best possible thing for my customer, and I want to wow them. Like, I see your heart in that. And so that fires me up. But I had the same passion for the companies that I started. But the thing that I could get distracted with was like doing the next sexy thing around video, like, let's do it. But when the question that I always ask myself that I found was most important is no one wants to deal with customer support. No one wants to read your article. No one wants to watch your video. They just want to solve their problem. And remembering that at the end of the day, when you create content, because sometimes the video, and you know this, like, I mean, if you've ever tried to search something I was trying to figure out something with Airtable the other day, and I saw a video option. I also saw an article option, but the article option was super short. And it's like, wait a second, I can quickly in 3 seconds judge if that's the right thing. And depending on the problem that I had, that actually might be better. But then we've also had other problems where it's like, this is kind of a more conceptual thing. There maybe there's some things that I don't know there's like areas that I don't know. And so let me go and watch the video and see that. So I think it's ultimately just living in your customer's shoes. That's why if we're on the phone with them, we're on Zoom, we're personally emailing with them in the early days, we can make those better judgments and say, hey, is this self-service article better to be just a written article, or should we put a video together? But let's not be deceived and get just so excited about just sexy looking content or playing the game of, hey, we have more videos. Like, let's make it about simply just getting their question answered as fast as possible so they can go on with their life and spend time. Because yeah, that's just my point. And I guess more to that point, I just have this personal pet peeve of business content and businesses thinking that customers somehow just want to just hang out with them. And just like, it's like the reason you interact with a business is a transactional thing. Yes, there's a community piece. I understand that. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not using Uber to go hang out with the Uber driver. I'm using it to get to where I'm going. And if he can talk with me along the way, that's, that's awesome. But at the end of the day, if he's not getting me there better, faster, cheaper than an alternative, I'm not going to do it. And so just remembering that, it's like, don't ever take advantage of the fact that they might be more willing to talk to you. Like, let's at the end of the day be like laser focused. Like, I know what you care about. I'm going to respect your time. I'm going to move fast and I'm going to help you get that question answered. And I think that applies to even me talking right now. Maybe I'm talking too much, but you're not on this webinar just to hang out with Adam or Corey or Patrick. You want to learn so that you can grow the fastest growing company in your area and in the world. And that's all you care about. So just remember that when you're creating your self-service articles.
Perfect. I think that was a great answer. Well, I believe we're at time, and there's no other questions, but we really appreciate you taking the time and putting on a great presentation. So we really appreciate it. We will make this recording available to everybody and send out that link as well. So thanks
Patrick, Corey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Have a good one.
I had a lot of fun.
Bye.
Great to meet everyone. Thank you. And feel free to reach out, LinkedIn, Adam at Zendesk, Adam.O'Donnell at Zendesk and all that stuff. Yeah. Have a great day.
Perfect. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you guys.